Hello, my friends. This is Chad. Welcome to the newest segment of the Naked Leadership podcast. It's called Thanks, I Needed That. We're here to have real and raw coaching conversations with top performers, company founders, and amazing humans making a difference in their companies, communities, and homes. Each episode, we dive deep into the challenge they're facing and the possibilities that it presents. This week, Dan engages with, let's call her Tyche, named after the Greek goddess of fortune and prosperity. Picture this, a financial genius, a numbers wizard, a master of spreadsheets and budgets. Now imagine that same person being the go-to therapist, relationship fixer, and moral compass of an entire company. It's like they've stumbled into a parallel universe where math equations and people problems intertwine. Tyche's the VP of Financial Planning and Strategy for her organization. In this conversation, Dan coaches her to uncover the not-so-official role she has taken on, the dilemmas she faces as the resident advice guru, and the burning question, can she walk the tightrope between financial wizardry and HR heroics? Or will she need to give up one in order to master the other? I'm so excited for you to hear our very first episode of Thanks, I Needed That. Also, really quick, you're going to hear Dan and Tyche wrap it up and say goodbye once. Don't leave. Some of the absolute best conversation happens after they say goodbye the first time, and then they start talking again, and then they'll wrap it up a second time. So don't take off. Make sure you're present for that. Let's dive in.
It feels good, man. It feels good, right? Yo, I'm in the light at the end of the tunnel. Paper stacks.
I think the best way to start this, so I know we've worked together before, and in order to get to, I'm going to assume certain permissions to talk with you, just like we've been working together for some time, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what I'd like to do, if you wouldn't mind, also is I'd like to start with you talking about or stating what it is you want to get done on this call, and then we can work from there. All right?
Sure. Sounds good. So I'll just dive right in. I think that, I've had a very transitional, 2023 so far at work. Just some context is the company, the majority of the company was purchased by a capital investment firm, but they are having us run business as usual, right? Like they're letting us run the business. They just own a pretend company. That being said, we're doing our thing. However, we have, a lot of things are changing because they have requirements, and it's just a different way of operating as far as, what we answering to a board and whatnot. So it's been transitional. And I think that my role in this transition, I've been, directly working with the investment team through the sale of the company and the transition. And I think my role has really shifted, and I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this, keeping the company culture while, keeping the new guys happy, essentially. And what I am struggling with in that is, there's a lot of tension in the office. The morale is hit and miss on any given day. And I'm trying to have people be comfortable with the fact that, this is my new role. This is how things are going to be, and kind of buttoning it up. But I want them on board. I don't want to just bulldoze my way through it. And I find that, I'd really, on this call, I think I'd like to accomplish just figuring out what that, as best as I can, what that balance is, where, pissing people off, pardon my language, or, but also not pissing people off, but also getting the job done. So,
hey, can you clarify? So at the end of this call, like getting the job done, what does that mean? Like for you?
I think that, I classically, my patterns and my personality type is I'm a people pleaser. And while I don't want to lose that value in myself, I think that I do need to give some of it up. And as far as what I'd like to accomplish on this call, I think is maybe just getting a clearer understanding of how I can, keep people engaged and motivated and happy, but have them realize that they do have to change some of their behaviors and, the way they work through their roles and such.
All right, good. A couple questions. Mm-hmm. So let me just clarify first. So what you want to get out of this is, there's a couple things, there's a number of things I want to ask you about, but I'm still not clear about the outcome, really. is it that the team aligns with what I'm making this up? So you correct me.
Sure.
Is it the team what is the team going to align with, or how will they be relating? How will they be working together if you were doing what you see as your job? And you might clarify here, what is your position? Is it COO?
I'm a VP of financial planning and analysis.
Okay, VP of
financial planning and strategy.
Got it. And at the end of this call, what will be happening that isn't happening now?
God, that's a really good question. I think that in the way, I think maybe it might, if this makes sense, I think it might be more about me feeling comfortable with the path that I'm on and with the way I'm navigating this new world order, so to speak. I think it's more about me feeling comfortable with realizing that some people are not going to be thrilled with the way I have to, assign them their situations, or, I think that's what I need to get comfortable with, is just feeling comfortable. I need to get.
So do you want to feel comfortable, or do you want to feel like, do you want to be confident, or do you want to feel comfortable?
Confident. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because if you want to feel comfortable with this, it may not, the best you can probably get is being comfortable with the discomfort.
Right. No, excellent point.
So, so you'd be more confident at the end of the call. You'd be confident at the end of the call. And what would you be doing that you're not doing now? Like, what would show up that in your way of being with your team? How many people on your team?
There are 5 of us.
Okay.
Including myself.
And who are they? Tell me what they do.
We have a manager. Well, in this new world order, I'm completely kind of blown up the team and restructured it. I've hired 2 new people in the last month, given the nature of how my role is changing. And so I have, 2 people who are essentially analysts. So they do all the data pulling, and, I'm just trying to getting them to understand the business. And also, they're also, we have systems that are a little outdated, et cetera. So they're kind of the organizers, if that makes sense, like the organizers of the data with my, oversight, of course. And then I have a person who's kind of involved in the content. I work in film distribution. So I have a person who's very involved in the content side of things, which is just the making of the deals, making sure that side of the business is running smoothly. And then I have what I call my number 2, who is, kind of my confidant. And I trust her to do, a lot of the, just kind of, she's my number 2, essentially.
Got it. And you said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand distribution. What kind of distribution did you say?
Film distribution. So basically, buy movies and from production companies and put them out there for the world to see.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's interesting. My family's in that business. And they're in the movie business, exhibition. So a couple of questions. You say that it's transitional. So what I get so far, it's transitional in the sense that new ownership, correct?
Yep.
New expectations.
Yes.
Are you clear about what's expected of you?
No. And so yes and no, but things pop up all the time. And so what I've really been trying to do, my very new kind of self-initiative, is the last literally probably 2 weeks, I've sat down with the CEO and the CFO and spoken to them about how I need some clear, like I was like, this is how I see it structured. And if you're cool with me taking it over and structuring it the way I see it, it makes sense. And if you trust me with that, and, of course, with your blessing at the end of the day, I'd like to do that. And they've said that's fine, basically. But, I know I've known these people, I've been working with them for 11 years, and they say that, but then the second something doesn't sound right, they're quick to change their minds, or, so it's a lot of it is also keeping them in line, because they're also dealing with how they navigate the situation where, especially with the CEO, he's always run things. This has been his company. He founded it. And so he's dealing with his own set of, issues.
Sure.
But we have a very open dialogue as far as the way I see him behaving, and vice versa, which is it's very healthy. But I think that he's still the CEO, and, I have a level of respect for him that is another element to all of this.
Okay. So yes. So you have a good relationship with him, so you can talk candidly with him?
Fairly candidly, but I can. However, there is that little bit of me at the end of the day that catches myself, just to make sure, because you don't want to piss him off, but
Yeah. So you have some history with him getting upset?
I don't. Not with me. I think this is where the people pleasing part of it comes in. He never gets upset at me. He can be upset though. I've seen it with other people. So
you see, I'm just right, because it makes sense that you're not clear about what's expected of you,
right.
and you're not clear about what you want to accomplish, which would make sense. That's why I wondered, who are you reporting to? Are you clear what they expect? Because if you're clear about what they expect, then we can talk about the kind of relationship that you would open up, or that you would, how you would relate to your team, everybody on that, that you're working with, to have that happen. So
right.
What do you know? Like, what is it that needs to get cleared up between you and the CFO?
I think it's my relationship with the investors, whether I need, what's interesting is that, so I technically report to the CFO. However, something else I'm kind of dealing with is I feel like I should report to the CEO at this point, just based on the nature of finance and how my role has shifted into more of a strategy situation as opposed to finance. If you're talking about traditional accounting, things like that, I don't deal with that at all anymore. And that's what I'd like. But I think that having that conversation as well, where how does this make sense? So when I talk about clarity, it's knowing what my deadlines are, knowing what the calendars are, as opposed to being filtered, the information being filtered to me, and all of a sudden it's an emergency, or there's a lot of that going on.
Right. So you haven't talked to him about that yet? Is that correct?
No. I'm supposed to talk. I believe we have a meeting scheduled the week from today where we're supposed to talk about it. So.
And how long have you been in this position?
So because I've restructured the position this year with the sale, I've kind of been in this, to be honest with you, in my current, what I'm trying to accomplish now, I'd say since April, probably, where it's things are new and different. But I've, grown at this company. I've been working there for 11 years. So my role has definitely shifted as the business has shifted. And just the needs of the company. We used to be a very small operation. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm going to do a little interrupting because there's a couple of things I'm trying to tie together. Yeah, so you've been with the company 11 years. They've just made a shift. When did they get bought? How long ago?
January of 2023. First week of the year.
All right. And was there any discussion about shifting you to this position prior to them buying, or when they bought? Was that discussed, or when did you find out you were going into this position?
I think, I basically decided I was changing my position, just the role. Like I have there are elements of my old position that are carrying over that I'm kind of trying to push out to other departments, but it was kind of it was my suggestion that I think that if you want me to be this main liaison to the investors, and there are these expectations of my team, that my role needs to shift. I can no longer do things the way I've been doing.
They gave you a certain set of expectations. They gave you a certain set of promises that had created expectations that you say, look, if I'm going to do this, I actually need a different position on the team, more authority with the responsibility, that kind of thing.
Yes, it's the latter mostly, just the more authority with responsibility. And it's just a matter of, if I may, just and please interrupt me as much as you'd like, but with this, we have a lot of people who've been at the company for longer than I have, and these are senior executives who have done things in a very lackadaisical way. They kind of operate in their own silos with their own set of goals, not really thinking about the company. And I think that I've been entrusted to get these people in line, so to speak. And that conversation has happened informally in a way. And it's a lot of pressure because, without a lot of support, especially from the CEO, and the CFO, it is difficult for me, who has, worked with these people forever, to just tell them, hey, you can't do things like this anymore. And we have been very successful. I understand that, but things have to change. That's when I talk about the confidence element of it, where I want them to understand, and I want them to trust me, and I want them not to feel like I'm just taking over and telling them how to do their jobs, because these are senior executives. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense that, given your propensity or thrownness to want to be liked, or like you said, approval seeking, or how did you frame it?
People pleasing.
People pleasing, which is approval seeking. That's
Yes.
just the way I translate in my head.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes sense. And so you don't want to upset them.
Right. It's funny. If I can, just an anecdote to kind of illustrate this is a few weeks ago. It's stuck with me, and I feel like it will stick with me. But a few weeks ago, a colleague of mine overheard a conversation I was having with one of these senior executives, who, just to be clear, is an executive vice president. So technically, as far as hierarchy in the company, has a role, is above me. But the colleague laughed because he said, the way you just basically read this person the riot act about his job, and he really responded to it. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then later he said, you know what, the only note I would give you, this is the person that overheard the conversation. He's like, you were great. You were firm. The only note I would give you is that at the very end, you kind of gave in. He's like, you walked it back. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I know that I did. And I know why I did it, because I felt like I was being too strong. And what this colleague told me, he's like, I just think you need to not do that. You need to just own it, and because you were fine. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Definitely. And you have in your language, there's a number of things. There's a couple of things. Like you said, it's interesting because in the beginning of the call, you said you wanted to make sure you can make this transition and keep the culture
Yeah.
that you had up until now. And then at the same time, you're talking about these siloed senior execs who are unwilling to take the kinds of risks that are necessary, you see, in order to have the business take the next level. Is that accurate?
Right. Yes, exactly.
What is it about that culture you want to keep? And then what is it about that culture you're committed to transform? Exactly.
That's a perfect question. So, and there's a reason why I've been at this company for 11 years. I love it. I've really grown up there. The culture is very unique, and it's really founders of the company that have created that. It's fun. There is levity in these meetings. Everything isn't so serious and buttoned up. There's music playing, things like that. However, and it's not that these investors want to come in and change all that. They kind of love it. But at the same time, in that, so there's that, but we've grown. And I think that when I talk about the silos, the reason those exist is because rather than kind of break the wheel and say, this is the way this is going to be structured now, we've just been like, oh, well, this person can start doing this because this area of the business is really growing. And so they go run with it without really speaking to the rest of the business. And if you're talking about theatrical, films, let's say like new release films, you can't operate with one, revenue streams, not thinking about just the nature of the business. But anyway, so it's about needing to restructure it. And these people are like, well, I've been doing this way and we've been successful. So it's just, they're just, it's a very,
You see in the current culture, the congeniality is valuable. You like that.
Yes.
But there are some issues that need to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly being clear about what your deliverables are. That's one.
Definitely.
Being clear about who you're reporting to. That's another.
Mm-hmm.
Having so is it possible to be hard on that problem and still be congenial and friendly and inviting?
So that is what I'm trying to navigate. Yes, I think it is possible. I'd like to think it's possible because at the end of the day, I have this, this core value where like authenticity is probably the most important thing to me. And I don't want to seem like I'm, this corporate.
Then that's the part I want to get to right there. I'm interrupting because did you hear what you just did?
No. I mean, if I thought about it, what did it do?
You were saying what you wanted, and then you said what you don't want. You don't want what?
To seem like an asshole.
Yeah, right. So you're committed to having something turn out, and then what you're concerned about is the way people perceive you.
Yes.
Right. What's more important, that they like you or that they respect you?
I think this is a very new thing that I've learned, that they respect me.
Yeah. Do you feel competent in your position? Do you believe that you? Okay, good. So what you're talking about is getting your competency on the table, getting your competency, getting traction with your competency, and not right. And you're struggling with like you said, people pleasing. You voiced it. You actually said you want to keep that value. You don't want to give up that value. Like people pleasing is a value for you.
I don't know if it's the people. No, I don't think that's the value I want to keep.
But you said that. You did. You actually said, yeah, I wrote it down. I'm taking notes over here while we're going along.
Sure. Yeah, I think I think I'm trying to let go of the fact that what I really want to get to is letting go of the fact that if someone is not pleased with me, if I am confident in what I am asking for, that I'm okay with that, and that I'm just going to accept that they're not going to be pleased, and that's the situation. But I don't want to go get out of control with not caring at all.
Yeah, there's a certain because you have a high level of empathy. I do get that. You warmth and empathy. You connect with people. Even on this call, I can feel like we have some affinity. That's not going to be your issue, right? You're connected to people, and they probably like you, and you have a high value on being liked. I don't think that's necessarily a problem unless it gets the value for being liked is higher than actually having the job turn out, having people live up to what they said they're going to do there. Because ultimately, if they don't have a job, right?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because the CEO, he's joked about it over the years, but it's gotten to become more of a serious conversation recently, where he says and a few other people have said this to me, where I'm unofficial HR, because people, even the coordinator, the manager level, director level, people will come to me for advice, and if it gets gossipy, I definitely cut those conversations off. But they come to me a lot when they're struggling with this department or that department. And they see me as somebody who's supposed to fix the situation. And it's a lot because I have some very real, not that is not important and not a real task, but I have some very real deadlines, that are numbers related and, meeting your budget related. But then I also have this role where I'm seen as this person who can fix this relationship. Yeah. So, and it's really taken its toll on me, I think. Like, I don't know how to, and the CEO has said to me, he's like, I wonder if there's a way you could do strategy and also have HR report to you. And it's just like, I don't know if that's enough.
Well, what's the answer to that? What's the answer to that?
I said, I think if I had a team of like 10 people, I could do that. But that's not. Go ahead.
No, it's funny you say that. It's like you like to help. You have high affinity, but you don't tend to. It sounds like, I don't know this, but as I'm listening to you, what would you say your strategy for managing or leading people is on your team? Let's just start there, because you're high on affinity. So people are going to trust you and feel good about you. I would suggest that they probably feel comfortable around you, because you've used that word quite a bit, right?
Okay, interesting.
All right. So what do you think your main strategy is when you're leading somebody, when you're working with people to get something done? What do you think your main strategy is?
That's a really good question. Because I will say this, I think I know confidently what the answer is. The answer is, my main strategy is to make them feel comfortable in what they are doing and understand the context, the direction, and the goal.
Yeah.
Not be all over the place with it.
Yeah. So if you listen to what you just said, the priority is to make them feel comfortable, right? Versus have them understand what it is they're there to accomplish and what the resource you are for them to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And you're setting yourself up as, when you listen to that, like, if you're there to make them feel comfortable first about their job, comfortable about what they have to do, what would you say that you're up to what's your primary strategy?
People pleasing. I mean,
yeah, I don't mean this in any derogatory sense. That's actually a strength. That's actually a strength overplayed. That's right. There's nothing wrong here. It's just overplayed. I haven't heard you talk about standards, right? I hear you talk about, you're concerned about how they feel versus, are they clear about what they're up to, what it's going to take for them? Like, what are they to deliver? What's it going to take for them to deliver? And what requests do they have of you and or the team to have that turn out?
Right.
Right down to the point that when the CEO or CFO or whoever you're talking to, they're wondering if you can both do, do the position that you're in now on as the what is it? The finances. What is it?
VP of Financial Planning and Strategy.
Right. So you're in financial planning, and then they're talking about HR. It's ridiculous. There's no way you're not going to scale. The business is not going to break through if you're doing both. And even the fact that they would suggest it and that you would consider it is an indicator of what you think.
Yeah. I think that maybe what I'm hearing here is that I think that maybe, and starting to realize is maybe I'm not clear on what role I'd rather have. I don't want to be a financial. I don't want to be a financial. I mean, I always want to do the budget. It makes me.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's part of what I was thinking is maybe what it appears to be is that you're comfortable with the way things are because you're not decided. You're not. Yeah. You haven't said. You haven't decided this is what I'm up to. I'm going to focus on this. No, absolutely not. I can't do that. Whatever that is, I'm going to do this to have this turn out. And that you're unwilling up until now to assert what you need to get whatever it is you decide you're going to get done, which would be, what are my outcomes? What do I need to be able to deliver? What do you expect of me so that this is exactly what you want? Yeah. There's a lot of, do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, that actually just hit me really hard because, I feel like I did that 2 months ago, and now as the work piles up, I feel like I'm walking it back. Exactly.
Right, just like you said, it's a strategy, right? That's why, look, when we work with you, you're obviously capable. You're actually obviously, you wouldn't get to the position you're at. You wouldn't last 11 years because you're competent. So now the question is, how do you take the next level of leadership for you? And this is a strategy that you've used, and it's actually a strength overplayed. So what do you see what would be an addition to this? What are some of the risks you would take, and what would you be risking for?
I think that, a risk I would take is to basically have somebody understand why they're doing something and not like it, and them putting that eventually snowballing into being, mad at me or having morale. There's this idea of morale, and I see it across the company so much, and that's why I'm very cognizant of. I don't want bad morale. I feel like bad morale oozes into.
I have good news and bad news. What do you want first?
Bad.
Okay, so it's going to have to get worse before it gets better. Yeah. What do you mean? Hello, you there? Hello.
No, I'm here. Yeah. So it's just about
look. We're talking about the problem, right? Are we having an intense conversation?
It's getting more intense.
Yeah, but it's the mood is not intense, right? The problem's clear, but our relationship's intact.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So is it possible that you could just get clear about what it is you're committed to, what you want most, and then sit down and do the same thing with the CFO? Like, for instance, you've mentioned a couple of things. You feel you should be reporting to the CEO in this position. So now, when we walk it back a little further, is this the position you want, that you're going to go fight for and negotiate for the benefit of the team? And how are you clear that'll benefit the team, the organization going forward? Those are all things to consider.
Yeah, and I've thought about this a lot, exactly what you just said. And I, like I said, a few months ago, I had that conversation and I walked it back. Because the reason is it's absolutely my patterns as part of it, because people are so comfortable with
up until now.
It really has been about me falling back into this pattern of, someone asking me for something and me saying, okay, just this one more time, I will do this, even though the whole idea and the conversation I had is that this responsibility does not fall on my team anymore.
Right. So there's probably a list of those. Is there a list of those?
Absolutely. A long list.
Good. All right. So you took a stand and then you got off it up until now. That's right. I don't mean that in any determinative way. They just got off it. You've been rolling off it slowly. You've been walking it back.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, my question to you first is this, it sounds like you see, being the VP in charge of financial planning is something that's going to benefit the organization and that you can bring it for the organization to get to the next level. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes. I think.
Or would you rather be the HR person?
No, I don't want to be the HR person. There's this idea of the strategy part of my team that descriptive term where I think I would like that to trump the financial planning element of it, because what I'd like to get away from is any sort of like number accounting when it gets to the way things are reported and things of that nature. Right. I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with the strategy of the company hitting the numbers. That's what I'm.
Okay, so that's one caveat. That's a distinction you want to make in your job description, because you can certainly hire someone in or work with one of the analysts to handle that aspect. Is that what you think? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Or yes. Well, I guess
still be responsible for it, but you're not doing it.
That is what I don't know if I want to be responsible for it anymore. I think I want it to fall under a different branch of finance, like the accounting.
Great. I'm not familiar how I get it structured, but great. Right. But you're clear what you want. You know what you want there. All right. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a discussion. That's going to be a negotiation. If you had that out, then would this be the ideal position for you?
Yes.
And you could just, you'd be doing all the strategy and working with the CEO and the CFO, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, great.
I think when it comes to the strategy piece of it, I think where the HR thing kind of trickles in is the structure of the company. So it's strategy, content, but then it also with the structure, if that makes sense. And I think that's where the people part comes in.
Structure so are you involved in the structuring of the company?
I'm on the periphery of it. There's someone else who's been put in charge of it that's not, and I think I would like to be more involved in it. Okay, I think that's probably a goal. That's probably a goal of my department. That's something that I would like.
Since it's got some relevance to financial planning, absolutely. So
exactly.
you want a voice in it. So these are things that you're good. Are you writing these down?
Yes, I'm trying my notes. I need to organize my notes afterwards because right now it's a bunch of
You're hilarious. Now, so what do you think the risks are? Like you can see what path you're on now.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think you're going to end up if you stay in this way of being? If you stay in the way you're relating now to what you're doing, what do you think's coming 6 months down the road, year down the road?
I mean,
you got to put a little cat in the room. I get the cheese, but we need a little cat in here too.
Sure.
And for the listeners, if they don't know, so I can explain the comment. There's been a bunch of research on what motivates human beings, and we're 5 times more motivated by pain than we are by the potential of pleasure or the potential of a benefit. So you want to be clear about what benefits you're going to get out of this, but you want to be also clear about what pain you could be sowing into this situation and you may be facing if you don't make the shifts that matter to you. That's why I be my cat. There's been research with mice. They tie a little weight to the mouse and they put a cheese at the end of a tube and they got 6 or 8, 10 mice. And about 40% of them go down and get the cheese. But they take a cat and they put it in a cage and put it right behind the mice and every one of them get down that tube and get the cheese, right? So, while we know what you're up to, you also got to be aware of what's coming if you don't make the shift.
Oh, if I don't make the shift, if I don't make the shift in the way that I quite honestly need to, I'm going to burn out it's already kind of happening. But I'm good at handling the burnout, right? I'm a worker. I enjoy to work. I enjoy working.
You notice what you're doing now? You notice what you're doing now?
No.
What are you doing now? Why are you telling me you're good at handling the burnout?
No,
Are you telling you that? That's the story.
I really have to get away from that because it's a badge of honor, and it's been a badge of honor for so long, and I don't want it to be anymore. And I'm serious about that.
No, it undermines your focus. It undermines your ability to do what you came to do, right? Like, yeah, it's a badge of honor to those that, want to be martyrs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a martyr anymore. And I say that, but then I keep going, right. I say I'm good at it. But I
You're
mean,
familiar with it. You're familiar with it. And, let's be real. It's been successful, but it's keeping you from what's next. What made you successful up to now may not be what it's going to take to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's one of the things so let's talk about what action you see. What do you see actions kind of like? What do you see opening up out of this conversation so far?
I think that something the thing that has stuck with me the most that you said is when you asked me I think the question was something like how I motivate my team or what is the most important thing and I said I want to make them comfortable before I said I wanted to have them understand the goal and the overall big picture.
Yeah, how about this? What if you were to have them be excellent at what they came to do in a way that it was not only productive but meaningful for them?
Right.
That's a very different standard than what we're talking about. Like, that's clarity about what you're standing for is going to have a lot to do with, like, if you're aiming at that, the hierarchy of concerns that are going to emerge from that are going to be much clearer. So you're going to know what language to put on it to enroll the CEO, the CFO, your team on accomplishing those standards because they can see what that means to the overall enterprise.
Right. It's fine. Like in working with you, the thing, there's this concept of negotiate the stand and then also just the ability to negotiate. And I think that word negotiate or just the act of negotiation, it comes up in so many ways that aren't in the traditional sense that you would think, right? And I'm just starting to realize more and more like it's all a negotiation, right? With my team.
Yeah, right on. It's all, and you're when you're feeling like you're going over the edge, you're probably getting just to the place you need to be to start for them to get how important this is and what it's going to take to have it turn out and the value that you bring to the organization. And I would suspect that if you do it, because you don't come across at all as a jerk, you know what I mean? And you need more edge.
Right. No, I really do. It's just when you talk about things like negotiation and how I don't have a clear picture, just as an example, we had our first board meeting and I'm on the board now. And it was just kind of thrown at me. I didn't act like it was, they basically said one day, like, okay, well, you're on the board. And I ended up running this board meeting with the investment board. And I ran the meeting and the whole thing. And it just kind of fell on me. And I remember a week and a half ago, I was like, why am I doing everything? And it's almost like, if you want to talk about how bad I am at negotiating, they just gave it to me. I said, okay, I guess I'll do it because it made me.
Actually, no, you're actually good at creating. You're good at negotiating in the sense that you create agreement with people. They get how competent you are. And then you allow them and they do it through flattery or whatever. Right. Obviously, there's something you're not like you're dissipating your power by doing everything or getting scattered into departments that really aren't they're not your strength.
Yeah, 100%.
Rather than stand with people to get up to what they're up to, and they're going to hear you because you're already connected to them. So you're strong on warmth and empathy, but you tend to be weak on enforcing. So you're going to be permissive, and then you're going to flip and get harsh because you're going to be burned out,
right,
and resentful because you're doing things that really aren't what you committed to do, and you don't ask for what you want. So you'll get dominant too at times because you're going to need to catch up with everything because you've done things for other people that they need to do. And if they did, they'd feel more competent and they'd have more meaning in their work.
Right.
Right.
No, it's so true. I mean, yeah, I'm just starting to realize like it does. I feel like now I'm just starting to feel like it does all start with me, just the way it all.
It does all start with you. So let's talk about what the issue is and what the next action is for you to resolve the issue or to have what you're committed to show up. It's really what we're talking about. Like what,
right. So I think I get this now in a different way. I think the issue is really for me to almost demand the clarity from the CEO and CFO about what is expected of me. Or maybe, I can give say, this is how I see it and this is what I want. And to be given the check mark, the go ahead, so to speak.
Yeah, you could present in a way that you're pointing out A, what you see, B, how you see it makes a difference to the organization, given what you see is possible in your position, what that's going to take, right? So, right. So if you got to get really clear about that issue, and you can own it. Like, it's like if you say, here's the issue, what would you say the issue is? If you were going to go talk to them, what would you say the issue is with them?
Oh, I would say the issue is that you have a lot of expectations from me that you have not basically not in any way really communicated to me. It's task based, right? It's situational. There's no big picture. Like I don't know the big picture. Yeah.
Okay. So now own that. Don't put it on them. You own it.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
So now,
I don't know the big picture. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you see the big picture, but you haven't owned it.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, we just talked about in a very general sense, but if I spend more time with you, we get down into it and it can get clear. But the point is, you're clear about a big picture you see would make a difference, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So you haven't been clear with them about what you see and what's wanted and needed in a way that they got specifically what's wanted and needed in your position to accomplish what you're there to accomplish and the benefit that has to the enterprise.
Absolutely. No, that's it. It's like I do know it, but right, it hasn't been communicated either way in a very beneficial way or in a way such that I feel confident in moving forward because I've gotten the buy-in, essentially. Buy-in from people that I need it from. I do need their buy-in, right? I can't.
Yeah. And you've got their buy-in as far as your competency because they're throwing everything else on your table as well, and you're happy to take it. Then you're going to get resentful for them. See, I can hear already some resentment but you're the one going, yes, okay, pile it on. Can I have another? Thank you, sir. Can you give me some more?
No, absolutely.
Or you can own that. So you can say, here's the issue. And then now give me an example that you might give them to see the issue.
An example would be this board meeting last week where the entire thing basically came up. Oh, we have to do this giant deck. These are the expectations. I was not involved directly with the investors on I work with them a lot, but not in the expectations with what information they needed for this Q1, board meeting, whatever. 1 week before the board meeting, it came on me. And then as I started to look through the deck, I was like, okay, so I'm going to have to work all weekend without question. I need a bunch of information from people. I'm going to have to ask, call in a bunch of favors essentially, because I do need information from the departments on, their areas of expertise, notes on why this number was this or why that number was that or whatever. And it was the amount of work I did in a 7-day period was, so wait, I'm rambling.
All right. So you're great. That's great. So you have an example. So know the issue. The issue is you've got to get really focused on your work, on what you're up to, what the benefit that has to the company. They've already bought into that at some level because you've got that position. You've walked it back a bit, so now you're going to walk it back up. Here's what you need, refocus. Here's an example of how you get dissipated and how it could burn you out.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now tell me, now you can account to them. So if you give them the example, you give them the issue, then you show them an example of what the issue looks like for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can talk about what you experience, which is you burn out. You can do that, right? We talked about that. And then you can talk about how you've contributed to it. So how have you contributed to the situation you say you don't want that you have right now?
Oh, I know how I've contributed to it. I can't say no sometimes. It depends on who asks me. I can say no to some people. There are people who I cannot say no to. And it comes back to, go ahead.
Yeah. So you can sit down. See, what I'm saying is you can actually write this down. You can prepare for this meeting by writing these things down. So you could talk about how you've contributed to this, which they'll see that you've owned it. And then you can say, the next thing is you can talk about what you see is at stake if this continues.
Mm-hmm. So, go ahead.
Tell me what you see is at stake.
Oh, what stake is my ability to work at this level and at this pace? Yeah.
What else? Yeah. So you'll burn out, right?
Yeah, and to be clear, like if I do burn out in a real way, which is it's possible. Like I've gotten close over the years, but I mean it's different now. But what would happen is I think that I could, the company could really be caught with its tail between its legs because I don't know who would really step up to do
Right on.
right.
So be specific about that. Like own that. Like if you went down, what would that mean to the company? How would that impact them?
Right. I mean, it would impact them in a very financial way, and also the relationship with the investors. Right now it's been 6 months and everything is, all smiles and rainbows. But that could change quickly if we're not getting them what they need.
And it would affect your team. It would affect the people on your team. It would affect the teams you're connected to if you burned out that way. So, and you can bet if they're putting things on your plate, it's going to affect them as well, both aesthetically, but also professionally. Because if you burn out and you leave, that's a lot of knowledge that leaves with you.
Sure. Sure. There is a lot of institutional knowledge there. And I don't for a minute, like I know that that's a tool I have, like a power I have,
But it's also part of why you need to structure the work so they can capture that knowledge in the organization. That's why it's important to focus yourself on the outcomes. It's important to train people on your team to those outcomes, right?
Yeah.
That's how you're going to shift the culture. And while you do that, you can do that as congenially as you have here on this call, right?
Sure.
You can be hard on the problems, soft on the people. But you can be relentless on the problem, the standards. So if you can get clear about the standards, then it's clearer what you're enforcing and why. It's clearer about the hierarchy of concerns that you're willing to take on and the ones that need to be taken on by other departments or other people on the team, et cetera. Those become clearer and you can separate them without feeling guilty because that's what's necessary. And if you don't, you know what's at stake.
Yeah. No, I love the concept of being relentless on the problem.
Yeah, relentless. And you can state that. Say, look, I'm relentless to have this turn out. And so there's a problem here and I'm owning it. It starts with me. Sure. I have no doubt I can get this done, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not doomsday. It's like, oh yeah, man, if we get clear here, this is what's next.
Right. Do you mind if I steal your language?
Absolutely. That's what we're doing here for. It's worth what you paid for. So
no, that's perfect.
Is that clear for you? I mean, there's so much that in a coaching relationship, I would continue to deepen this and structure it with you so that, you're accounting for it. You're noticing what's working, what's not working before it hits you. When it's a small problem, fit hors d'oeuvre, let's take those on. And then those are what will open up the bigger possibilities. So, the key here is to take that structure of identifying the issue, then giving them an example, letting them know what you experienced when it's in this example and how it feels, what goes on, overload, et cetera, how that weighs your team down, how it weighs your family down, a long-term burnout, et cetera, and then how you've contributed to it.
Yep.
And get really clear about that because how you've contributed to it, it lets them know what you're making, that you're going to shift from this to what you're committed to and what you think it will take.
Yeah.
And then if it continues, what parade of horribles is coming, you can see if you don't take ownership now and get into an alignment with them so that you can make this correction.
Yeah. These are good steps.
And then you can interrupt your need to people please.
Yeah.
Don't walk it back. You can even talk to them about that and you could request that they, I could say, look, I'm not going to, I have a habit of walking this stuff back and I think it undermines me and it'll undermine their respect of you and they'll think they can get over on you without even talking about it. It's not like they're sinister or anything, but they're going to have an expectation that, we can push her, no problem. We get over her. Right.
Oh, they can be sinister. I mean, I think it's possible.
But you can see how you're contributing to that.
Absolutely. No, completely.
Yeah. And if you take a stand, then they're going to respect you, and the respect is going to. I mean, you're probably going to end up. You're going to move up. It's just going to open up a lot of possibility you don't see now.
Right.
And if it doesn't, you're going to get a good look at who you're really standing with and how long you want to stand there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's also a big piece of it. But with everything going on right now is who am I standing with and who are
yeah. And if you go in there, you know, when you talk about approval seeking or, you know, being a nice person or that, I think of Gollum. You know who Gollum is?
Of course.
That's the precious. It's like, and it really, you disappear. Because you're just trying to be somebody that really it's not good for you. It's not who you're committed to being.
Yeah. I'm Gollum. Yeah, that's a funny coincidence. I mean, because that is my favorite, the greatest story ever told, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Yeah, we all have a goal. We all have our Gollums, and you can integrate Gollums. Are, you know, you can make them an ally when you find yourself being there. You know, there's something. You know, if you find yourself in that temptation, you know, there's something you need to stay. You might even want to withdraw, get clear about it, come back, and you can do the same thing we did here: issue, example, you know, experience. How you're responsible, what's coming if you don't shift, and then make a request.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great to-do list.
You up for it?
I'm totally up for it.
Right now, I have to know. You got to call me. Listen, please. Will you let me know how? And if you need some more support, I'd love to talk with you.
Thanks. I absolutely will. And now this meeting's in a week, and I'm like, well, I have a lot to do next.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because if you get this straight, you're going to be well, think about it. If you get this straight with your team, you know, with the guy, those you report to, and then your team, because you're going to need to do. There'll be part of this. What I would do next is start to see how this filters into your team, because there's probably a lot of weight you're carrying that needs to be in their lap. That they would be both. That's how they grow, and that's how they're going to transform, and that's how they're going to become greater leaders. That's how we create leadership in the organization, right? Like that. So if you're doing it up, you're going to be doing it also horizontally and down into the team that you manage.
Right.
So you want to pick that off as you're going along.
Yeah. Okay.
One day at a time, one conversation at a time. Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
You good?
I'm great.
Good.
Yeah, I'm my mind is rolling, but but I feel good.
You know what's next for you? Are you clear about what to do next for what's up, what the next steps are?
I really am. It's a matter of sitting down and looking at it and, you know, but no, my next step is very clear.
Yeah, I would, you know, if we were working in a coaching relationship, I'd get clear about your next steps and I'd follow up on the next call with that. We'd take it from there and we step this thing out. So.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it's always fun.
Thanks.
Call me, please. I want to hear how it goes. If I can give you some more assistance, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. I'm just, it was so fun. But now I'm, you know what, this is very much a me thing, is now I'm just annoyed with myself because I let the creep happen, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Well, at least you're seeing it though, girl. That's the beautiful thing, man. The more you see it and let that like it burns in your body, the less you're going to be willing to let it take over. You know?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. The awareness is key. It's easy to lose that when there's so much work, you know, but
yeah. And when you're alone, you don't have a voice, another set of eyes on it with you. That's all a coach is. It's another set of eyes.
Yeah.
I don't feel the weight because I'm not in your shoes, but I can see things because of that you don't see. That's all.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I could tell you're really competent, by the way.
Oh,
I can tell because if they're throwing stuff on your plate.
I mean, I appreciate that. And that is one thing I remain confident in, is that I am competent. It's just a matter of, you know, articulating that to my day to day, or just to, you know.
Standing and just think about it. Think about how effective you'll be focusing on what matters most to you and not being distracted by everything else, not allowing yourself and I think we didn't talk about this, but in the background is the more you are confident in yourself, the less you're going to need the outside strokes, the less you can be hooked into that shit.
Right. That's what I really need to get to too. I know that. I mean,
yeah, you need to own your power. I can tell you're a powerhouse, and that's why they're creeping in on you like that.
mm-hmm.
And there's more of the confidence. I don't know how to say it. The sense of self. The stronger you get there, the more you're going to take your seat at the leadership table at the executive.
Right.